Hello, my name is Keith McCandless. This story is about the University of Iowa's very first national championship. Iowa's first national title would come in the sport of gymnastics. This is a story which I am very familiar, for I would be fortunate to be on that team. The date was April 5th, 1969. I was a senior in my final day of intercollegiate competition. This date would not only define the climax of my athletic career, it would also mark the end of it. It would be the very last time I would ever compete in athletics as a Hawkeye or ever touch a piece of gymnastics equipment again. Now, in the 40th anniversary year of that event, still not much is known of Iowa's first championship team. Very little information survives today at the university or athletic department. About all that remains is our team trophy, which is now displayed at the new Athletic Hall of Fame building with 22 other national championship trophies that have since followed in our team's footsteps. What we're looking at is the only film footage known to exist of Iowa's first national title. It may have a humble home movie look to it, but because it has survived all these years, it's now become a unique historical record of that event. My father, who attended these NCAAs as a spectator, took this film from the grandstands. Shortly afterwards, it was put away for safekeeping, so well I might add, that it was eventually misplaced, lost, and forgotten for almost 40 years. This past year also brought the rediscovery and reappearance of a second film, ABC's Wide World of Sports nationally televised coverage of the individual event championships that were held later that evening in a separate competition. Because of the coincidental reemergence of these two films in this 40th anniversary year of the event, I felt the story should be retold. As we're watching the end of that 1969 season, I suppose I should start out with how the Hawks got here in the first place, because it was not easy. Although the Hawkeyes had earned national acclaim in the late 1960s as a gymnastics powerhouse by having made 2 consecutive trips to the NCAAs with back-to-back Big Ten championship teams the previous 2 years, the results of those 2 trips yielded only 2 third-place finishes. We were considered the favorites to win in both those years, only to have the national trophy slip through our fingers. 1969 would start out to be even more difficult, as our team was barely able to gain a berth at the national championships. To qualify and eventually win the nationals, the team would have to overcome 2 earlier setback losses that occurred against 2 very excellent teams, the Michigan Wolverines and the Penn State Nittany Lions. The 1969 season also brought with it a rule change. Starting that year, the national team title would be determined solely on the 6 traditional Olympic gymnastics events. Trampoline, which was not an Olympic event, would be eliminated from the NCAA competition for the first time in over 20 years. This rule change would prove favorable to Iowa because our team was strong in the 6 Olympic events. At the Big Ten NCAA qualifying meet, Iowa was able to win by less than half a point, thereby securing its berth to become one of only 8 schools in the nation that would eventually compete for the national title 2 weeks later in Seattle. Iowa was able to eliminate the Wolverines and represent the Big Ten as the conference sole national qualifier, even though Michigan would eventually go on to become the 1969 Big Ten champion. Of the 8 teams that would later compete in the NCAA preliminary qualifier in Seattle, only the top 3 teams would go on to the team final competition the following day. In the preliminary team qualifier, Penn State would win the competition. Iowa would take second, and Iowa State University would edge out California for third place. The stage was now set for the team finals. Okay, that brings us up to date to the national team finals that we've been watching, and by now it should be apparent from the individual performances in the film so far that the Iowa gymnastic team had finally settled down and we were hitting our routines. Knowing it might be our very last chance at the championship, the team rallied. Having missed our earlier opportunities the previous 2 years, this year we were not willing to leave 1969's good fortune of rule changes to chance. This time we focused and executed. Right out of the gates, in the very first rotation, we took the lead by the smallest of margins, and would not relinquish it for the rest of the day. Penn State and Iowa State exchanged second and third place positions twice, but never overcame us. The critical point in the meet came on the parallel bars, Iowa's very last event in the 6-event rotation. With Penn State's 6 rotations now completed, we knew we needed to average an 8.64 on the last event to ensure the win. Roger Nice started the event with an 8.4. Co-captain Rich Scorza then scored an 8.8, and the pressure lifted a little. Mike Proctor, who had not competed at all that day until his final event, put the icing on the cake with a score of 8.85, and it was over. We had won. With the pressure now off, Bobby Dixon, our other co-captain and final competitor, came through with a 9.0 performance to extend our lead. After 80 years of participation in intercollegiate sports, the University of Iowa had finally won its very first national championship and did so by less than 3/4 of a point. In the 40 years that have followed, Iowa has become a dominant wrestling dynasty, winning 21 NCAA national titles in the past 34 years, as well as winning a national field hockey championship in 1986. Although the Hawkeyes came very close to winning another national gymnastics title in 1997, in 1998, and again in 2000, Iowa has never won another national championship in the sport of gymnastics.
This is the Edmondson Pavilion, the scene of the 1969 NCAA Men's Gymnastics Championships. The pavilion is the field house of the University of Washington, located in Seattle, one of America's most beautiful cities. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Bud Palmer, and welcome to the 1969 NCAA Men's Gymnastics Championships. And to provide the expert commentary with me is one of the very many fine gymnastic coaches of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, from Los Angeles State College, Gordy Maddox. And Gordy, pleasure having you with us, friend.
Thank you, Bud.
Listen, one quick question. We haven't won a medal in the Olympics in gymnastics since 1962. When are we going to break that?
We think we're breaking it now. We're inspired. We're disappointed after Mexico. We're reorganizing nationally, and we're very hopeful, very optimistic.
Now, the first event coming up this afternoon is the still rings. What do we look for in this event?
But you're going to see a lot of strength. The judges are going to look for a cross position. They're going to look for...
That's when you
suspend yourself between
like
the
cross,
rings.
yes.
Must be level. They're going to look for a couple of handstands and lots of swing to complement all the strength that the event requires.
And some great dismounts?
Oh, all of them be great dismounts. You don't get in the finals without a great dismount.
This event just about to get underway.
This is Bob Dixon, a senior from Iowa. Incidentally, Gordy, I might have said 62 was the last time the U.S. won a medal in gymnastics. It's 32, isn't it?
That's right, Bud. Now, Bud, to get to this point in the competition, these men have qualified through a number of regionals and one day of grueling preliminary and team competition here in Seattle. So what we're seeing today are the finals in the individual competition.
Well, Bob Dixon here was in 4th place coming into the final performance here. He was second in the Big Ten in this event from Portales, New Mexico.
Now, both his score in the preliminaries and the score he receives here in the finals will be averaged to determine the final placing. So, to keep it simple, let's just give what each gymnast needs to take the lead. Bobby's working very well. He's a fine gymnast, and rings is probably his best event.
That's great.
That's considered a superior difficulty move. We'll talk about it in a moment.
And he hits his dismount. Very satisfied with it, you can see, and the large crowd here enjoyed the fine performance there of Bob Dixon, a senior, University of Iowa. Perfect score is 10. There are 4 judges. They throw out the high and low and average the remaining 2. 9.45. This is Don Hatch, a teammate of Bob Dixon, a senior, 3-time Big Ten champion in this event. And he's tied for the lead after the preliminaries. And now he needs 9.3 to take the lead.
He's obviously very capable of a 9.3. He's a great ring man. Now, international rules dictate that he has to do at least 4 moves considered to be of higher difficulty and 2 moves of superior difficulty. There's one of the superior difficulty moves there.
That means the hardest you can do, isn't it?
That's right, either extra hard or extra hazardous.
Boy, the strength this event takes is incredible.
I've watched it for years, and I'm still amazed. Back up rise to an iron cross. Beautiful. He just has to stick his dismount, Bud, and he's got himself a lead.
Oh, he went on his knees, didn't he?
Oh, yes. Let's take a look at that. He hangs on just a little bit. No, he releases just a little too quickly, but mostly he stays so wide at this point, his radius is just too great to allow himself to get all the way around.
Well, here comes his score. Let's see what he got. 9.15. And still, Bob Dixon, his teammate from Iowa, is in the lead.
Competitors will now march to the victory stand.
There's his score. Ward Mythell did not take the lead, but his score is good enough to tie him with Paul Vexler of Penn State for first place. And there's no tie-breaking performance. Third goes to Bob Dixon of Iowa. Now we go to the side horse, and here is the winner, Keith McCandless of Iowa, two-time Big Ten champ, who also won this event in 1967.
He's an outstanding side horse man, and we consider the side horse the most difficult event in the whole sport. He's a little bit off balance, but there, he picked it up again.
Now, these swings are very difficult, aren't they? These giant, what do you call these?
These are scissors, yes. They are difficult to do them that high. Good, strong finish.
And that was the winner of the side horse event, Keith McCandless of Iowa. And earlier today, by the way, Iowa also won the team championship.